Hey yo, and welcome back to The Letter. This game will end eventually. Hopefully. We still got like two more chapters. Ah! But thanks for sticking it through. I am so determined to finish a game. It's been so long. But here we go. We're still in Rebecca's chapter. We're meeting Professor Andrew Clark because of all the spooky shit that's happening, and this is where we're at. He has other commitments, but being a longtime family friend has its perks. I have my parents' connections to thank for that. Of course, I'm not the sort to impose on him often, but the situation is, well, it's not entirely bad, although it does require calling in a few favors from a friend like him. I'd say it's bad. Without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library's restricted section. If I want to get more in-depth information on the Ermagerd mansion, that is, not simply what they choose to show in the general public. As much as I hate to admit it, there's always something people censor, and whatever it is, I won't ever find it in the general section. It has to be where they're keeping here. It has to be what they're keeping here, beyond the public eye. The thought of that alone makes me antsy. Thankfully, I don't have to brood over it. The wait for the professor doesn't last long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he dislikes people who are tardy. He arrives 5 minutes after I do, greeting me with that kind smile and casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in so long, but it appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough for a fond smile to spread across my face.
Professor Andrew.
Rebecca, didn't I say long ago you can drop the professor?
You know I can't possibly do that. Even if I can, it feels disrespectful to call you by your name alone.
Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man. Kids these days.
Kids.
All right, but just for today, since you're doing me a huge favor, Andrew.
I guess you simply can't have it all, even at this old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit.
Yes, sir, if that's okay with you.
More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say.
He hands me the permit without further prompting. And just like he promised, he also written a recommendation after his signature. This is more than enough to get me those files. I mutter a small thanks before slipping it into my pocket. Although when I look back up, his brows are furrowed, and the very face of curiosity. Not surprising considering how vague I've been during our little talk over the phone. Right then and there I decided to tell him if he ever asks. Maybe not all of it, but stuff he needs to know. It's the least I can do to thank him. As expected, true to his inquisitive nature, he asks,
If you don't mind, though. I know you've always been an eager learner, but may I know what in the restricted section that piqued your curiosity?
It's the Ermengarde mansion, sir.
He's quick to raise an eyebrow at that, and for a while, I fear he'll take the slip of paper back. Is there something in what I said?
The ones they have out in the general isn't enough?
I'm, hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that.
Oh, I see. Well, you certainly aren't the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about. Why, just this past week, I've got a few asking me about that. Imagine that.
Who else?
I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree. The mansion is beautiful, even with the renovations. They kept the stained glass windows, too. They are magnificent.
Oh, you've seen it.
I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but they couldn't make it. My mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans. Hannah Wright?
Ah, I know of her. Her husband, too. Who doesn't?
Oh, he's not happy about that.
Luxborn's most popular couple.
Something falls behind his eyes, the warmth in them suddenly gone. Like he's revealing a painful, distant memory and seeing it play right in front of him. It appears almost as soon as it surfaces, but that look has unsettled something in me.
Is something the matter?
Nothing much. But you know, you're already like a daughter to me. So if you could, do be careful with the friends you make.
Is this about the Wrights, sir?
Just a friendly advice from an old man. Don't think much about it.
What's Luke up to?
Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws. Say hi to your parents at the detective inspector for me, will you? I wish you luck with all that research.
I will. Thanks for this, Andrew.
Andrew gives my shoulder a light squeeze and gestures a younger me as always appreciated, and quickly crosses the street after. He needs them bear claws. I watch him until he disappears behind the door to the cafe, until the doubt swimming inside my head finds a moment to rest. Whatever his business is with the Wrights isn't anything I should concern myself about. But somehow, in the grand scheme of things, now, all of it feels oddly relevant. The how, though, I've yet to find out. I'm hoping the library will give me the answers I want this time. Are we gonna get any quick time events in this chapter at all? On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty. The second floor in particular. I've always considered this place to be a sanctuary, in respite, away from the hubbub of the city. A respite. As a child, I grew up reading books here, spending hours here to no end poring over the pages, living out fantasies in my head until my parents called me home. Now it feels nothing like it. The silence is smothering, suffocating, even with how clean they've kept the microfiche? What freaking big words? I'm too dumb. Room. How the entire small of it lacks a speck of dust or clutter, breathing is a struggle for air. Not far into my stay, I began to long for the noise outside, and perhaps as a way to calm this unease, I start to hum a tune. Imagine that. Why of all things it had to be that silly nursery rhyme? I'm not an inkling. What's with the London Bridge? Why is this a theme? It does its job, however. It fills the lull with something far less awkward, far less deafening, and that is enough for a distraction. I have business here. No time for silly daydreams, only important work to attend to. Even if there's a possibility of being fruitless, by some means, it feels like I have to do it, if not for me, then for the people who have been affected by this... What do we even call this? A curse! It's a curse, honey! A haunting? A Halloween prank gone wrong? A curse? Yes, that one. If Isabella were here, what would she say? Will she panic? Will she be angry I only listen to her now? Yes, she should be furious. I would have stopped being friends with you. Bitch. It all stems from that one moment in the movie house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this, only we had taken our warnings to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal lives into a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself for it, or at the universe for throwing us into this mess. We can only make do with what little we have, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start.
A good start.
It doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. A microfiche of old newspapers, long kept in special storage cabinets at the far end of the restricted section. The year is 1620s and beyond. Before the city of Luxembourg even existed in the records, where the mansion had just been built and Anselm is nothing more than a small sleepy hamlet near a river. A lot of pieces are missing. Days, sometimes several consecutive weeks without any records remaining. Often it goes on for years. troublesome, but as it is, I'm lucky enough to have find anything at all, considering how far I'm looking back. Can't be picky now. Can't waste time mulling over what record keepers of old could have done to make this a breeze for me.
I can still work with this.
The faint whir of the microfiche machine keeps me company as I go over each slide. Each image hoping for something that goes beyond what the local law knows. There are snippets, little mentions of the family that once settled in the house here and there. The usual singing of praise for the couple who helped brought up what was once a tiny settlement into a buzzing town. Nothing substantial, nothing I didn't know before. It continues on like this for a good while, until I come by the years after their deaths. The people of Anslem might have loved Lord William and Lady Elizabeth Ermengarde, mourned their passing and held them in high esteem in the years after. But it was their daughter that was remembered fondly by the townspeople. If her parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was the one who made it prosper. Remarkable considering it was a period of recovery from a bout of plague that killed half the town's population, including her parents. Oh, hello. What's surprising though, apparently her time also marked more than superficial changes to the place. She moved things, changed laws, altered old customs and traditions. If they were done on a woman's whimsy, it doesn't say, but she seems capable enough for more than that. The gist of it is, the town she rebuilt, it's what eventually grew to become Luxembourg City, while the nearby Anselm village remained as it was, a relic of the old. A frown swiftly forms on my face.
So, why is there a need to hide this?
One by one, I try to recall every lesson I've gone through, every book, paper, journal I've read. None of these ever mentioned this. It's always the lord and the lady of the house, their endearing child, always an afterthought to those anecdotes, the one who always took her life in the end. Struggling to read today. Never someone who restored a town from the brink of collapse or brought new ideas to it. Is it because she's a woman?
That pisses me off.
Don't make assumptions. Granted, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Not all aspects of her can be considered admirable. But this is history, and some parts are bound to naturally delve into unpleasant territory, whether I like it or not. Witch hunts, for example, became common near the end of her life, which would have been completely unremarkable and might have gone to become a mere footnote in history if it didn't involve Lady Charlotte and the very slave she saved. Well, it caused quite a stir, enough to leave almost a week's worth of clippings. The girl was eventually burned, condemned by an entire town, at the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But it doesn't really have anything to do with this curse, does it? It has. It probably is 100% everything to do with it. Unless the woman following us and this slave are the same person. A tale of revenge? How cliché. However, with this lack of accurate photographs, it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint, the illustration will start resembling her. But in my field, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. I'll be the laughing stock of the community.
This isn't going anywhere.
Mentally exhausted, I take a careful step away from the screen, pressing my palm to my tired eyes. The lack of ample light in this area doesn't help. A headache already threatens to form at the back of my head. Yet I'm nowhere near figuring things out. You just did! She's probably that slave lady. This is simply too much to take in all at once. Based on what I'm seeing, the ghost lady is probably the slave. She was probably flirting with some man because the ghost lady is always hanging over Luke. And Luke probably looks similar to whoever dude that Charlotte was with. So, hunting. Solved. Calling it right now.
I should have asked for someone's help.
Always ask for help. Never be afraid. Now, I'm at a dead end. I start gathering everything around me and placing them back in their respective envelopes for storage. The motion is no longer new after volunteering here a number of times. It didn't make much mess anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with. I'll have to look somewhere else. The where remains unknown, though. But just as I'm able to slip the last of the slides in, something catches my attention. My hand pauses, the microfiche halfway through its protective sleeve. This is one of the few I've set aside without taking a careful look at. Seems like a gossip column at first glance, but upon closer look... I slide it back into the reader, gently turning the dials in search of the page. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear... They must have had this drawing commissioned for this announcement. Yep, there's the man. Has the hair slicked back like Luke does. Calling it... She has long fucking hair. I don't doubt it. The details are far more intricate. Their likeness is likely closer to how they might have appeared in the time. They're both recognizable this way, closer to those paintings I've seen in the mansion. However, it's the man standing beside her, Edward Godfrey. According to the article, that caught my attention previously. Her first cousin, and eventually her... Ew! Maybe it's the posture, the manner in which he holds himself. Or maybe it's the shape of his eyes, though I can't be too certain about that until I've gotten a better reference. Nevertheless, there is a Calling it right now! Called it already. Cassandra's right. He looks eerily like... My head snaps up, glowering at whoever's running in the floor above. Any day I'd march upstairs and reprimand whoever it is.
This is a library, for heaven's sake.
It's probably the ghost. But now isn't the time. I've gotten what I need. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine's print button for a copy of the page, while my other hand moves to put everything back to storage. A ragged exhale slips from me. Relief, perhaps? Or maybe this is already exhaustion. Regardless, soon I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish. If only to stave off the headache building up from everything. You gonna fall asleep? Sometime, I even began humming the same song again for comfort. Despite my doubts about this, despite all the tension in my shoulders, this may be a small find, but at least I can start somewhere. We can start somewhere. There's a way out of this. I know it. The printer sputters to a halt. However, its sound isn't what makes me snap to my eyes open. Oh, okay, keep my hands on the keyboard. A chilly brush of air behind my back. Brief enough for something sickening so suddenly lodged itself in my throat, while I take in my surroundings. We're in Silent Hill now, bitches. It's that suffocating sensation again, creeping to every part of me, crawling under my skin, draining me little by little of any strength. From that day in the mansion, from that brief moment at the school, without delay I grab the paper and make a quick beeline for the door. My whole body, it freezes. Huh. They made my heart be like, whoa.
What are you doing, Miss Pink?
Okay, spacebar, Z button, all these buttons. I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. Oh, her brain is like sticking out of her head. Should I censor that? I don't know. For a little while, only the sound of papers crumpling under my grasp fills the room. The excitement from earlier gone instantly, replaced by a cold, seeping dread spreading throughout my limbs. But more than the fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her using my own student's voice against me, and more than once I believed it was really her. She has no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, there isn't a wall behind me. I'll probably take a step back. Anything to put distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But I steel myself, because if I do fall back, turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I'm not dying here.
You think you scare me?
Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting.
I'm not afraid of you, you spook.
Spook.
This is one Scotswoman. You aren't getting into an early grave without a fight.
Oh, she's just getting the accent. An early grave.
Come at me.
Come at me, scrub. I expected she'll lunge, prove to me what monster she is. Instead, all she gives me is a smile, twisted and gnarled. It's as if time has crawled to a stop at the sight of it. A split-second decision, and before I know it, my body shifts. Eyes closing in anticipation, hand grabbing whatever's solid enough on the nearby table and hurling it at her. Oh, it actually hurt her? I don't bother looking if whatever I threw hits its mark. I run, as fast as my legs carry me, despite my heart threatening to burst out my chest. But in this maze of bookshelves, with the whole place almost void of people, is there even a place safe I can escape to? Oh, no! I don't want her to die! Hold on. I mean, I don't particularly like her, but I never wish death upon anybody. Why would I go upstairs? Seems like a bad idea. I don't know where the door goes. I saved. It's fine. We can just undo with the magic of editing if I choose the wrong thing. I'm gonna do the door. If there's one, it is out of this room, out of this place, as far away as anyone can get from her. I can think about the rest of what I can do after I'm outside, when there are other people I can ask for help. So I keep my hand on the keyboard. When she's not chasing after me like this. There's no hesitation in my steps as I race for the restricted section's door, head downstairs and barrel straight for the library's exit. Towards safety, in a desperate bid for my life, library rules be damned. I can no longer hear her behind me, but I'm not taking any chances. My breath almost escapes me as I near the door. A little more. When out of nowhere, a library cart careens from a blind corner and slams into my sides. Oh no, did I choose wrong? My back hits the floor with a hard thud, the impact completely knocking the breath out of me. The copper tang of blood gradually spreads over my tongue as I fight to get my bearings back. I force myself to move, even with the excruciating pain coursing through my limbs, and the exit almost there. If only I can. There is no moment's respite. Ah! The next thing I know, there's a heavy weight on top of me, and cold digits slide around my neck, tightening like a vice, pressing closing in, leaving me gasping for air. Through my blurred vision, I can only make out the hateful gleams, the spite in her eyes as she leans over my body and grips on my throat grows tighter. Desperation kicks in. Do I press anything? My nails dig into her wrists as I struggle against her firm grip, trying to pry her fingers away.
Let go. Let me go.
Oh, keep the slider. What? Oh. I don't get it. I don't get it. No, I don't get it! Wait. I didn't get it. I think the door is the correct option. But I didn't understand the QuickTime event. Keep the slider with the green by moving the mouse in the arrows. Oh. Okay, now I get it. I just didn't read it right. I don't think twice. My limbs are moving on their own before what I did could fully register in my brain and my lungs could recover. Behind me, she lets out a cry, sharp, loud, and thunderous against the empty walls of the library. But the fear her wails bring compares nothing to the relief washing over me when I finally make it out. My knees buckle as soon as my feet hit the pavement, its surface cold and hot against my skin. Quick escape achievement. I've only been here for a few hours. About 1 or 2, probably. I don't know anymore. It feels like an eternity all the same. My breathing hasn't slowed down yet, and I don't expect it to go down after going through that. I probably look the most undignified creature on a Sunday morning right now. Out of breath, disheveled, slumped here with bloodied lip and all. But at present I simply cannot bring myself to care, even when a few passersby start giving me strange looks. Stare at me all you want. I won't give a single shite. I'm alive. I'm safe. This isn't the end yet, but I'm safe. And inside my bag is something that could get us out of this mess. Nothing definite yet. I don't want to get my hopes up, but it's still something. If Isabella is here, I'm sure she'll feel the same. She'll even be the first one who will put her faith on it. Wherever this will lead us to is a victory on its own. Now that all that's left is to find the others. The rest of us trapped in this bloody nightmare. Right on cue, as if to answer my prayers, though. Previous thought, my mobile lets out a beep. I pick it up, simply hoping it'll be one of them. Only it's a voicemail that greets me. From Ashton. There's a pang of disappointment, of course, but it brings some reassurance that nothing's happened to him. At least one of them.
Hey, Becca, call me back when you're free. We need to talk. ASAP.
He ends it right there, the message, less than a minute long, curt and gives nothing away. I let it ease my worries regardless, and do as he asks. Because this, too, is another triumph for us. One less thing to worry about. Is Rebecca's chapter finally over? Haha! We're finally out of her chapter! Where are we starting? Oh, we're starting at the party. Hopefully these chapters get shorter. Alright, I gotta sound aloof, you know, like, cool guy. Parties have never really been my thing. They're always such a hassle, and take so much time off my day. Prior plans and commitments cancelled, all for the sake of playing along with others.
Welcome everyone.
I hated them, even as a child.
Please, make yourselves at home.
But Mom often insisted. She'd slick my hair back, put me in one of those stuffy dinner jackets, and if there were any children around, urged me to make friends. Never mind how utterly loud or tedious it was all for the sake of keeping up appearances. To some extent, lies have already surrounded me, long before I've chosen what I wanted to do with my life. Luckily, there were easy ways to tune everything out, and much to my mom's frustration, I always managed to sneak my CD player along. I kept it to myself, and to my music, had my own little world, until I learned to observe. It's a simple matter of awareness, really. And for someone with keen eyes, a skewed necktie or a simple flick of the wrist alone could tell volumes about a person. I still don't like parties, especially ones as big and fancy as a Wright's housewarming. However, when there's actual reason to go to them, I figure they're not too bad.
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
Who are you talking to? Besides, like it or not, it's all part of the job. I'm here on a mission. One that has the name Luke Wright plastered all over it. You'd think the man would want to remain inconspicuous after his name was linked to several high-profile crimes across Luxembourg. Granted, most of it has gone cold over the years, having stagnated without any lead or evidence, but that still doesn't make him any less suspect. Yet, here he is, throwing a party in his own backyard. Although having observed the man this past year, I'm not even shocked. He craves it, the damn spotlight, constantly yearns for attention like a neglected puppy. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why he's nowhere to be found in his own party. But that's not the problem here. What pisses me off is how far his reach extends, how close he's creeped into the lives of the people I care about. Again, like a stubborn itch you can't get rid of. First Professor Clark, then there's Isabella. I also spotted Z-Man here a while ago, and now there's also Rebecca. Apparently.
Ashton?
Becca, what are you doing here?
I was invited.
Really? I had no idea you were friends with the host.
The fur gives the illusion that his neck is long, like super long. Like his shoulders are like down here, and then his neck's just short. That explains things. It makes this difficult all the same. As if getting a contact among the staff to sneak a name into the guest list isn't hard enough. The guy almost ditched me last night, and I might have placed another setback on my investigation if it wasn't for my generous tip. You could have just gone with Rebecca. Then here comes Rebecca, another person to mind.
Well, it's my parents, actually. But that's beside the point.
Nah, it's fine.
What are you doing here? You hate parties.
It's none of your concern.
I still do. I'm just here on behalf of a friend.
Unnecessary lie. I can't bring my own friends into this any further than what they've found themselves in. Because if Luke Wright so much as harms a hair on either Zach or Rebecca's heads, there will be hell to pay. Worrying about Isabella's brief dealings with him is stressing in itself already. I doubt he'll attempt anything in front of other people, though. It would tarnish his glorious reputation, and he values appearance more than anything. That doesn't necessarily mean he isn't capable of it. More than, in fact. And on the off chance he does something, I wouldn't be responsible for my actions.
That's rare. Do you have someone with you then?
Nah.
Nope, just me. I won't be staying long.
Oh, well, if that's the case, maybe you and I can...
Honey, shh. No. For Zach and Rebecca's sake, however, I really hope this'll simply be another housewarming. Even though something tells me it's anything but. Call it a detective's intuition or whatever. When Luke Wright's involved, nothing good has ever come out of it. Can't let my guard down here. Even more so when a familiar car slows to a stop and out comes.
Chief?
My presence here might be odd at best, but I have an excuse. One that this man handed to me himself a year ago, along with a heavy dose of flattery for the newly promoted detective inspector. Can't exactly say the same for my good old boss, can I? Although, to see him here, chatting it up with Luxembourg's rich and famous, isn't such a big surprise in itself. No disrespect meant, but the guy is obviously a social climber. What is surprising is the fact that he seems all too eager to mingle with a person of interest's wife. Ooh, you dirty man. Just what the hell's he doing here? Trying to get in that girl pants.
Ashton, what's...
Sorry, Becca. I need to... There's something I need to check for a bit. I'll talk to you later. Do you have a ride home?
No, I had to take a cab here. My car wouldn't start this afternoon. But what about...
What the shit is going on here?
I told you to get that old thing checked before, didn't I? You can head back with me after this. Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. Be careful, okay?
Hey, be careful! About what
I don't want to draw attention to myself either. At least not until he's given me a proper reason to spoil his little party.
Thank you for the invite, Anna.
You're gross. I think you might be grosser than Luke. Equivalent.
Husband still missing, I see.
I should be saying the same of your darling Rochelle, Lee. The doctors again.
For now, the best I can do is wait and remain inconspicuous, especially with Chief here, whose motives are dubious at best. If it means having to pretend I don't know Zach and Rebecca, or forcing myself to rub elbows with people I barely know, let alone then so be it. It can't involve anyone. Wandering is out of the question as well. and there are guards and civvies stationed here and there. Sure, getting past them is something I could do with ease, but I'd rather not right now, when I'm one of the few snooping and roaming about. It'd be best to try and do so once there's a crowd of people. And if their interior designer's drunken claims are to be believed...
Yes, well, what about Luke? Should we file a missing persons report now, or do you want to wait 24 hours?
His voice is gross. It makes my skin feel icky.
He's around.
You know, I can tell if someone's bluffing.
Stop talking. It all comes down to how I'll play my cards tonight. With a good hand, this party's going to give me a breakthrough I need to crack Luke right. Or something to prove my suspicions wrong. Maybe find out what kind of game my boss is also playing. He's just trying to get in that poor lady's pants. I've had an inkling before. A few hunches tempered down by how much of a bumbling fool the man appears. But one does not simply deal with the rights and get invited to a party they host without wanting anything from either of the two. Or is it the other way around? So with the last wary glance at the two, I head into the ballroom. I just hope this will not complicate things further. Shit. By the time the party's in full swing, night has fallen. Yet there still isn't a Luke Wright in sight. The man can be quite ostentatious, but this, frankly, I'm impressed. I don't even know how many hors d'oeuvres I've already stuffed my face with. Oh, the food looks good. That looks very squishy. One too many, probably. The servers are already giving me a stink eye every time I saunter over the buffet table. Blame your employer, not me. He's the one who has the guts to show up late. Besides, most of the guests' idle talk is connected to this area. Despite standing under the same roof with the very people they're whispering about, some just couldn't resist. I might as well keep an ear out for any useful info.
Is Suarez still fixing that tech problem?
Suarez.
Tech problem?
It's been 3 years. Sooner or later, the Blighter will put 2 and 2 together.
He might have already.
If the red tape I'm being slammed with these past few months suggests anything. That, or someone has been pulling the strings. I wouldn't be shocked. This case would not have gone this long if Scumbag didn't have a mule of some kind in the force.
Shush you, we all know Suarez just wants an out.
I knew he was bad news the day the merger with Evans Incorporated happened.
These accents.
Fair.
Glad I did not have to deal with that.
But keep it down, someone might hear. The wife especially.
This kind of negligence has always been an advantage, but sometimes I wish I could be smashed drunk while doing this. Having sharp ears also means you get to hear the most unsavory things. Who cheated on who this week? One person's motive for bashing someone's skull against a wall? Or a father's excuse for burning his own daughter alive? That sort of stuff. After a few years, it gets tiring. You get desensitized to it. But humans could also be downright awful. Sometimes there simply isn't enough brain bleach in the world. Sadly, the wine is a no-go tonight, and mostly for show. I'm up for another drive later. For one, and I definitely want to be sober in case anything comes up. And something always comes up in an assignment like this. A detective inspector dying of cardiac arrest, for example. Because I can't feel the moment my heart grinds to a halt, the second I shift my eyes to a corner of the ballroom.
Hannah Wright.
Some will say I'm acting a touch bit paranoid, and maybe I am. This is a party, and she's the hostess. It goes to say that she'd take time to mingle with her guests. But Hannah Wright Nee Evans isn't without her fair share of accolades. At least to the public, she doesn't seem like it. Unlike her husband, she's the one with the business sense, not to mention the impressive track record needed to manage a company. Or effectively hide whatever irregularity there might be. She's clean, as far as my agents and I have found, but it doesn't rule out the possible involvement with whatever her husband's up to. Hell, Luke Wright came out clean in previous reports until I bothered to take a deeper look into it. What I found may not be sufficient to bringing anyone to trial yet, but is enough to nature suspicion. This may be a bit of an overreach, but no one lasts long in my line of work by being careless.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Maybe Ash already knows about Becca, but is like, nah.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Nothing to be worried about then. She's probably even more careful with appearances than her own husband. I haven't grown up with the spotlight focused on her. Yet, even knowing that, the anxiety stays. Has been here since the party started. I've brushed it off earlier. Who wouldn't feel edgy, right? I've gone undercover in a party hosted by the very person I'm investigating. That in itself is risky, and has plenty of rooms for error. Usually, though, the tension passes around the half hour or so. I've been trained to remain composed in situations like this. However, with each second I spend here, it only grows heavier and seeks to overwhelm. An odd feeling that someone is watching me instead. It has been like this since last week, but I should already be used to it. Oh, I think it's the ghost lady. I'm hearing the weird wispies. People would be looking at me too, no matter how small or big of a blip I am in their radar. That's what they do in these things. But when the feeling of eyes burning into my back lingers longer than necessary, I've been looking around every now and then to catch the culprit. It's a ghost, no luck. And despite my efforts to push the sensation as far down as I could, tiny pinpricks continue to sting the back of my head, and the ghost of a cold touch creeps up my limbs. It's the ghost! Until my gaze switches back to Rebecca and Hannah Wright. Oh, so they both saw it at the same time. She stands there, dark-haired and dirty, sticking out like a sore thumb. Even so, no one seems to notice. Although she's looking away from me, her mere existence here strikes, disturbs. A sense of tunnel vision blinds while I stand stock still and agape at her, like my life depends on making sure she stays where she is. I feel trapped in her presence until another guest bumps into me, yanking me out of my stupor. Only then do I realize that I've been holding my breath. Before I could figure out what happened, she's gone. A quick scan of the room yields no sign of her. The party continues as if nothing's amiss. I'm not really one to judge, but I'm sure someone like that would not have been allowed in a fancy thing like this. What has the security been doing? Are they really that incompetent for someone so distinct to easily get in without notice? There should have been an outcry by now, particularly from the host. She's been standing almost at arm's length away from the woman, and yet she simply continues to talk with Rebecca.
Oh, the professor! And your little Becky!
My parents couldn't make it since they're in Scotland right now. And Mom says hi, by the way.
Is there something in the food then? That I'm starting to see things? It couldn't have been the wine, though I'm every bit as sober as when I first stepped off my car. The hors d'oeuvres? But why would anyone want to do that? Why would Luke Wright want to do that? He's fishy, but I couldn't see why he'd ever think it'd be a good idea to lace food he'd serve at his party. With someone like Chief Lee on his guest list to boot. He has been linked to narcotics trade, yep. However, that kind of tactic is below him. That much I could tell. Unless there's a mass murder waiting to happen here tonight, which I highly doubt. So.
What the fuck was that?
But there's no time to look deeper into this even if I want to. Not when a telling silence comes upon the roof and draws everyone's attention to the main door of the ballroom.
About damn time.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party?
Oh, do we get to see the pregnant lady again?
I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the right mansion.
I've been tailing this guy for a while now. Before that, I heard stories from previous officers who tackled this case, none of which are pleasant. Mind, I'm not continuing the incident with Professor Clark yet. Pleasant is glossing over the gravity of it. While Wright's good at covering whatever shady stuff he's doing, he's shown to be a really rotten guy. At least that's the case when he thinks none of his peers are around to judge him. I've lost track of how many counts of verbal abuse and harassment case the guy could be pinned with. Fuck. He even tried to make a move on Isabella back in the open house. Right in front of his wife. Standing in the same room as him doesn't make me want to punch him any less. Actually, the urge is stronger, but protocols. My case, first and foremost. My own opinion of the man shouldn't get ahead of my purpose here. If I want to put him in his place, it should be in court, with the proper charges filed against him. And I'll only be able to do that once I gather enough evidence to pin this bastard down.
Welcome, one and all, to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are all ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses, as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
Suppressing my annoyance, I prepare to step away from the crowd. I missed the cheers and claps, and now is a good time as any to move. Try to find that something the McAuliffe woman talked about. In the first place, I have no plans to actually shake hands with the slime ball himself. A fake smile is plastered on my face while I pretend to listen to one of the other guests gossip about him. All while slowly inching out of the ballroom. Unfortunately, before I can get any further.
Are you feeling ill, Rochelle?
There it is.
Perhaps you need to sit down and...
Rich people only have two ways to resolve their mess. Either they quietly deal with it behind closed doors, or they create an even greater problem out of it. And it just blows up in everybody's faces one way or another. Fun.
No! Shut it, you munter! I ain't talking to you! I'm talking to this scumbag over here! You bloody bastard standing there with your smarmy smile!
Not even a few seconds in, this is already proving itself to be a big public spectacle. Why spend money on a television to buy daytime soap operas? You just go to one of these parties and see the action unfold in real life. You get free food, too. Really, if I were an actual guest, I'd just take this as some assorted form of amusement.
Watch your tongue! You're on thin ice, Rochelle. Where's your husband? Who even invited you?
But I'm not a guest who's here for a good time. I need to focus on him, even though this whole sorry tale even through. So, I wait, I listen, I observe. Interesting, isn't it, though? That's the chief inspector's wife. Did you not do anything else in that party? The morning after starts off quiet. Even when the whole of Salem residence seems unusually still. The open hallway when I step out is devoid of tenants. No sound coming from the other units either. It's almost as if something's brewing on the horizon. A peaceful night's sleep still does wonders for the mood, though. I can't even remember the last time I slept without anything urgent interrupting. It's a nice break from all the bad news lately. If it wasn't for the insistent buzzing in my pocket waking me up, I'd sleep in. The ringing has stopped before I could move somewhere private, but sleep has also been effectively kicked out of my system by then. Pity. I could use a little more rest, until I have to face the other storm. Of course I owe Rebecca an explanation. It doesn't matter if it's the whole truth or another hastily spun tale. Although I haven't really figured out how to go about this yet. Unlike Zach and Isabella, who don't usually ask questions, and are content with what little I could share, Rebecca is rather quick on the trigger. I'll have to be set aside for later, though.
Sup, I'm Ash from Deluxe City. Baggers, watch out. Can't
I forgot about that ringtone. The chief's name stares back at me, almost as if it's mocking me. Sad. It would have been nice to just chill after last night, or maybe half listen to the news. Sure, it's the same. I can't freaking do it with this song! Sure, it's the same thing we've been hearing lately. Still beats standing outside in the chilly Luxembourg morning on the phone with my boss. Sighing, I answer it, if only to get this over with.
Frey, where are you right now?
Now that's a tone I didn't expect for him at this hour. Just thinking out how this'll go already gives me a headache. Immediately, I reach up and pinch the bridge of my nose to stave it off.
This is why I won't ever drink myself senseless.
What was that?
Nothing, Chief. A pleasant morning to you, too.
He's probably calling to rag on me or complain about his wife, which is really none of my business unless it affects my case. Seems like the usual rich man cheats on wife deal. Although I would have followed up on it if it were somebody else's wife. But figuring it's the chief's, hey, I trust him to come clean if the missus is related to the right's shady dealings. This is why I left before they even hauled the woman out last night. I'm not going to go around investigating cheating husband and wives when it's probably just that. Chief appears to have a different ideal in mind, though.
There's nothing pleasant in the morning.
You sound like Scrooge.
Anyway, where are you? I told you millions of times before to keep your lines open.
He did. And not only him. Zach, Rebecca, Isabella, all of them have said the same thing numerous times in the past. But I was undercover last night. A phone call is the last thing I want to happen when there are other things I need to focus on at the time. Besides, we have radios and work-issued phones. Why isn't he using one of those channels if it's this urgent?
Just woke up, sir. As awesome as it is to hear your voice this morning, it really is early. If you could give me a few minutes just to wake myself up, that'd be swell.
No need for that. This won't take long.
Is something wrong? Am I needed at the precinct ASAP?
Oh no, everything's good over there. Just look, kid. Frey. Don't take this personally, alright?
Is he fired?
You're off the Luxembourg firm case. Starting today.
Well, I did not expect to hear that either. Must be some kind of cosmic joke. I allow some awkward seconds to pass. Cheese must be pulling another one of his awful pranks. Out of his bad mood or severe hangover, maybe? Everyone knows that when given the chance, he exercises no control with his drinking. If it wasn't for his wife causing a stir, he'd probably be trashed an hour in that party. He'd like to drink more after they threw her out of the ballroom. Besides, his sense of humor has never been good. He's just infuriating most of the time. But when he does follow it up, if I sound a tiny bit frustrated speaking to my own superior, I'm not the one to blame.
Wait, no. What? Are you kidding, Chief? Is this one of your practical jokes again? The Temps won't say anything about it, but I...
It's not that. They're orders. From the higher-ups.
Ah, the higher-ups. Yes, my favorite word. Since when did the higher-ups ever care about what a criminal investigation department did? It was probably Luke. As far as I could tell, they don't give a hoot if CID is filled with old cold cases as long as we keep the spending low. When I need to view those old case files, though, they're locked away in the archives. You're gonna have to check with the higher-ups. I need to access these reports, see if the higher-ups would allow it. Every step, every move in this case, there isn't one that hasn't been gated by some authority. It's probably Luke. If it's not the chief, it's the commissioner. Or so they tell me. It makes one wonder why they even bother assigning it to anyone. Not a single one of them has done anything to help move the case. And they wonder why it's taken this long for even a hint of progress to show.
You can't just drop this on me. You can't just take me off like that.
Yes, I can. And I'm sorry, Ashton. You're a good detective. One of the best I've seen in years, but
3 years, Chief. 3 years.
3 years since that anonymous tech leak blew up. Since Luke Wright's name was openly linked to several nasty dealings within Luxembourg's corporate world, some of them involving deaths. 3 years, and I was the only one who made it this far. Made much progress in that officers with the most experience weren't able to do when they handled this case. Just within a year, and with barely any help from the damn brass at that. Of course I'll be pissed.
Do you know what would have happened if I didn't work my ass off on this thing? If I didn't dedicate a whole year of my time on it, it would have gone cold, like every fucking case Luke Wright has been linked to. I saved this from getting thrown into the archives, sir. I'm getting close. If you could just...
I'm fully aware of what you've done, Frey. But the Commissioner hasn't been happy with your progress. Still too slow by their standards.
Too slow? Well, what about those reports I filed? I've documented every freaking thing for them. I've given you every important lead I can gather. Isn't that enough?
They need results, not a bunch of research papers. Not one baseless assumption after another. Concrete proof, Frey. I'm really sorry. They've already made a decision.
This doesn't seem like how policing should work.
They're going to pass this on to someone who's been in the force longer. Someone who has more experience.
Someone who has more experience?
They meant nothing by it, but you're still too young to work on a case this big.
Chief, I've already done more than what those old farts ever did behind their desks. All of it, within just a year of being assigned to this.
Watch your language, Frey. Those are your superiors,
I'm not some damn rookie fresh out of training. I'm as qualified as they are.
Futile, I know. They'd never say it within my earshot, but from the very minute I stepped into their precinct, the lot of them had underestimated me. From their stares alone, to the assignments I get. To them, I'm still just a kid. Too young, too green, too inexperienced. And once they pulled that card on me, every argument I have gets thrown out the window. No matter how logical it is, how much I've accomplished, what the record says, or the amount of work I've put in every investigation they've thrown my way.
We're all aware of your skills, kid. You wouldn't have that badge and rank if you weren't good enough. However, this case is just not for you. Too high profile, too risky to put a good officer like you in harm's way.
No. Too risky to put a good officer on it, because then it would get solved. And you're a dirty cop. You're a dirty cop, Chief, trying to sleep with a man's wife. Disgusting. Can he even hear himself? That reasoning is odd in itself. No one joins this line of work without knowing the dangers of it. And the dangers of right now is that I'm out of time. We're finally in Ashton's chapter. We only have this one and Luke's. And we started pretty late in the chronological time of events. So this is hopefully a shorter chapter. And I would assume Luke's... I don't know how... They'll probably start Luke's chapter. Luke's chapter is probably going to be like super long. I assume. Because like there's just so much that we don't know from his perspective. Like we're starting to see tidbits. But I don't know. But thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I post. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.